Hey Pokemon fans, Real Mama Eagle here, also known as Key, and you probably remember my very first YouTube video where I talked about the frustrations of every Pokemon generation. In this video, I want to talk about my favorite features of every Pokemon generation. The opinions in this video are my own, and they're based on my favorite features of my playthroughs in all the games. In the comments below, let me know what your favorite features are. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and I want to thank you all again for 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Let's get started. Let's start with Generation 1. Now, I am very critical and hard on Generation 1, but I also have common sense, and I definitely think that Gen 1, even after all this time, deserves its flowers. It started Pokemon. It was the literal blueprint for all 8 generations and soon to be 9 games that we love and enjoy to this day. And Gen 1 gave you a nice rough draft for other games to build upon, make better, tweak, add great things in, even add new forms and new features to Pokemon that were in Gen 1. So we always have to say, this is where it started and it deserves so much love. My favorite actual features in Gen 1 are the fact that you can get evolution stones so accessible. That was a feature that was really lacking in Gen 2, but I like the fact that if you needed a stone for a Pokemon to evolve, you could easily go into the Celadon department store and pay a pretty reasonable price for stones. That was always dope. I also love the Safari Zone in Gen 1. I think Safari Zone in Gen 1 was the best blend of having Pokemon that were harder to find, rare to find, and you had to walk around. You actually had a big, generous map. I like the Safari Zones in Gen 2, 3, and 4, but I don't think that they were as greatly executed as Gen 1 Safari Zone. I just love the challenge of walking around, finding all the items, finding the Surf HM, having that higher difficulty catch rate for the Pokemon, making it just so much more of a challenge. But those are some charming things and charming features about Gen 1 that I still, to this day, adore. Even though it was so early, Generation 2 offered some pretty cool changes. We know the most important one and the most important feature of all, and that's the ability to go back to an old region. It doesn't matter what my thoughts are as far as how Kanto has changed in 2 years. The fact that going back to a region was the only time that was done and it was a memorable experience is definitely something worth being pat on the back for. And the fact that you could rebattle all the gym leaders, that was definitely a cool feature. I also love the phone in Generation 2 because I like the fact that you can communicate with your mom and the professor, and I also love the fact that like you could rebattle trainers to get items from other trainers. I have some other features that really stand out too, but my favorite is the fact that it was the first time in Pokemon Crystal that you could use a female character in the Pokemon series. That was groundbreaking. I remember booting up Crystal and like, oh my goodness, I can finally be a girl. And obviously they kept that format in future gens, which was amazing because we felt represented in the game as well. The most important feature in Gen 2, besides going back to Kanto, is the fact that there was night and day. Night and day was groundbreaking because there were certain events that only took place at night, some that only took place at day, certain trainers you could only battle at night, which was pretty cool, like the security guards, and of course the fact that only certain Pokemon were found at night and day, and then of course you had Eevee, some night and day evolutions with Umbreon and Espeon. That was so huge. But Gen 2, despite my criticism of it, had some really great features that I adore. Generation 3 offered quality of life change on top of quality of life change. This generation was so important for battling and competitive altogether because natures and abilities were huge. And those are 2 of the main features that Gen 3 offered. Natures were dope because they determined a Pokemon's personality, but on top of that, it really determined how your Pokemon stats were spread out and how they leveled up and grew, which was pretty cool. Abilities were a game changer because abilities dictated so much. They gave you an advantage or sometimes disadvantage in battle, but they really made you strategize. You had ones like Intimidate, which lowered attack. You had Rough Skin, which hurt the other Pokemon. Some of my favorites like Vital Spirit, where the Pokemon possibly cannot fall asleep. And of course, Synchronize, where you basically transfer your status condition or give it to the other Pokemon, which is pretty cool. But abilities were so huge, and abilities and natures are why so many trainers were going around catching so many Pokemon of the same type because they wanted a specific nature ability because that's how they wanted to battle. And you could really customize your party based on abilities and natures, which was so dope. Another great feature in Gen 3 was obviously the running shoes, duh, because we were walking around so slow in Gen 1 and Gen 2. The running shoes came in Gen 3 and they never left, and thank goodness for that because it gave you a lot more patience when navigating from town to town, especially before you had your bicycle. So that was a big deal. Another feature I love in Gen 3 was definitely the double battles because it made you strategize, showed you the importance of working with a team Pokemon or, you know, another trainer in that case where you could basically strategize to take down 2 Pokemon. And sometimes it was coverage from the other trainer if you had a type disadvantage, which was neat. That also paved the way for the rotation battles and triple battles in Gen 5. Gen 3 offered so many quality of life changes that are still so important and still why Gen 3 is one of people's many favorites. Generation 4 offered some really amazing quality of life changes and great features, but the most important one does pertain to battle and competitive, and that is the creation and invention of the special and physical move split. That was something that was big in battle because it determined how certain moves worked and pretty much gave each move different ways of being used between different Pokemon and wasn't necessarily dependent on type. So that is definitely something that was very needed for battling, very needed for competitive. One thing I also love about Gen 4 is the fact that it was really the first time we had an actual fluid and flushed online system to be able to trade Pokemon and battle online. That ultimately paved the way for Gen 5's GTS, Gen 6's flawless trading system, and of course Gen 7 and Gen 8's trading system. So that's where it all begun. But you were finally able to battle with your friends and trade with your friends without needing a link cable. So that made it really huge as far as an upgrade. Another random thing that I love about Gen 4 is the fact that you could run inside of buildings. I know that's probably weird, but the running shoes in Gen 3 were cool, but you couldn't run inside buildings. Gen 4, you could move around, which was pretty damn cool. I also like the fact that in Gen 4, you did get evolution soul Pokemon. Now, I realize in past videos I've said that that is one of my complaints about Gen 4, and that I wish they would have offered more new Pokemon, but there were Pokemon that really didn't need evolutions, you know, like Murkrow, Mischievous, etc., many others. But that was definitely something that was a great upgrade in that case. But Gen 4 nailed it with a lot of very important features. Generation 5 offered a ton of features that we still use in games today that I adore so much. One of the biggest ones is a Pokemon World Tournament where you can basically go back, battle random trainers, random challengers, and random gym leaders and champions from other regions, which I thought was pretty cool. I love it because it gives you that bit of nostalgia of seeing them again, but also a very competitive and fun battle system when you want to break from just hanging out in the game. Rotation battles and triple battles are also a great feature, even though Gen 3 laid the groundwork for that, but it gave you an extra incentive to strategize in battles and made you think a bit more. I also like the fact that Gen 5 gave us seasons. Gen 3 gave us weather, which I forgot to mention when I talked about Gen 3. Oops. But Gen 5 gave us seasons where different seasons show different weather, and a lot of routes would change appearance depending on what season it is. One thing I loved about seasons in Gen 5 was the fact that if there was a season that had snow, snow was piled up, allowing you to basically go up and reach another area. And I do love the GTS in Gen 5. That was inspired by Gen 4's trading system, which was really amazing. Gen 5 also gave challenge mode, the ability to go back and face the trainers, face the champions on even a harder mode where those trainers had different Pokemon and added a few things to their teams and had a different level spike. So Gen 5 difficulty level is another thing I love, but these are just some great features. I wish later gens had a challenge mode. I don't know why they didn't keep implementing that, but here's hoping the later gens, they continue some of these things. Despite having a region that was a little bit dull and a story that was dull, Generation 6 added features that the series desperately needed. That's why I still love it so much, because of what it gave us. For starters, let's look at the elephant in the room, fairy type existing. Fairy typing was so needed because you introduced these charming, cute Pokemon with adorable moves that were very strong. Hi Sylveon, hi Xerneas, hi Florges, I love you so much. But one thing that made fairy type amazing was the fact that it gave dragon Pokemon another weakness, and it also made poison and steel type Pokemon shine a bit more because they had fairy types to now defeat, so that was pretty cool. I love the fairy edition. I thought that was major. Another thing I love about Gen 6 was Mega Evolution. Okay, don't get me wrong, they didn't execute it great in X and Y, but they did bring it home in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Mega Evolution is still my favorite battle gimmick in any generation that was offered, and I really wish that it would have stayed, but I understand the need for change over time. But Mega Evolution gave Pokemon cool new appearances and types in battle, and it was so fun in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, finding all the stones and seeing what these Pokemon became and having so much versatility with that. One thing I also like about Gen 6 was the Pokemon Amy. I know some people may think it's a bit corny, but I personally love bonding with Pokemon. It was how I leveled up my Eevee to get a Sylveon so quickly. But you could bond with your Pokemon, play games with them, feed them, and if they loved you enough, they would hold on and have that 1 HP in battle, and that would sometimes help you win the battle, so it was super clutch. But something that was very needed in the series was that mechanic, and obviously fairy typing. Huge. But Gen 6 had some great features. It's funny that I was so critical on Generation 7, but now it's like top 4 for me and I love it so much. But Gen 7 definitely offered some cool features. Now, I know in past videos you heard me say, Pokemon panders old generations, and I have said that, but there were some Pokemon that actually did need Alolan forms, and I thought they did a really good job. Even as much as I dislike Muck's Alolan form is pretty cool. Alolan Raichu is something we needed. Alolan Ninetales and Sandslash are killer, but the new regional forms is something that they kept and then put into Gen 8 because now we had Galarian forms. So the regional forms and giving those old Pokemon that new fresh feel was cool. I do hope in future gens they don't just focus on Gen 1, 2, and 3 Pokemon. Maybe give some Gen 4, Gen 5, Gen 6 Pokemon some regional forms. Show them a little bit of love. That's something I would definitely love to see. One thing I also like about Gen 7 is Gen 7 did give you that new fresh feel of something different. I don't particularly like the majority of the trials because I thought they were very easy, but it was something different and refreshing, something that was unique, something that was almost inspiring to see in a Pokemon game. And even though it may not have been difficult, you have to applaud Game Freak for creativity in this sense. So Gen 7, where It may be a little bit easy, maybe frustrating at times, definitely had some really amazing features. Generation 8 really did a great job with multiple things, but the main thing that stands out is obviously the wild area, because like I said in a previous video, you could spend hours and hours in the wild area, not get bored. You could literally go around. Interacting with Pokemon in the overworld was a great feature, and it's really cool that it appears they're keeping that feature in Gen 9, and I hope they do in future generations. But seeing Pokemon's personalities and how they charge at you in the wild area was really cool. The wild area having different weather, different, circumstances was pretty cool. I also love the max raid battles. That was a huge feature in Gen 5, and it was also the first feature generation to actually give you like full-fledged DLC that really gave you something, because in previous gens, technically like Crystal, Emerald, Platinum felt like DLC, but Gen 8 actually gave you DLC that was a bit more tangible because it gave you much more to do and introduced Pokemon that wouldn't have been in the original game otherwise, so that was pretty neat. Another thing I like about Gen 8 that I hope they keep in, further generations is the link box feature in the wild. Being able to catch Pokemon out in the wild and send it right to your like you can literally go into your link box, you can pull Pokemon in, take Pokemon out. There's just so many cool things you can do with that, but that was a game changer, because we all remember the days where we had to run back to the Pokemon Center, and we were probably on a route where we had to go all the way back, and we didn't have Fly yet, so it was just a nightmare. But that link box was huge and great. And Gen 8, like I said, they crushed it with a lot of necessary features. I want to know what features you love the most in every generation in Pokemon. Talk to me in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ding that bell so you know when videos are going live as well. Don't forget, I'm Real Mom Eagle on all social media platforms, and I do live streams on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at twitch.tv/RealMamaEagle. Also, in the comments section, let me know what videos you want to see going forward. Always love fresh ideas. You've all given me some great ideas, and I really enjoy reading about them, so I am looking forward to seeing that. I appreciate y'all for watching this video, and I will see you next time.